Ravens fans, what is going on? Welcome back into the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. If you're watching this video, we've made it to the weekend. Congratulations. And we've got some more things to celebrate on today's show, brought to you by Prize Picks. We're going to do a deep dive into the 2026 schedule. We're going to talk about the breaks that I feel like Baltimore is getting with this run, looking forward to 2026. It all starts out on the road against the Indianapolis Colts. Couple of highlights. Week 3 on the road in Rio. You got the Bengals game. Week 7, Bills game on the road in Week 8. Jaguars, Chargers, back-to-backs, Week 9 and 10. Bye week comes at a good time, in my opinion, in Week 13. I'm always a fan of late bye weeks. And then you round things out with 4 straight divisional matchups. More on that in a second. So coming up on today's show, I'm going to talk to you about the gifts that I see in that 18-week, 17-game stretch for Baltimore coming up in the 2026 season. But real quick, I do have to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. We are battling Steelers Talk in our May sub battle. Right now, they have a 36 sub lead. That can be dwindled down in a matter of an instant. All you got to do, subscribe, lock us in for daily free Ravens coverage. Let's talk about the first gift, okay? I truly believe that the NFL has just gift-wrapped the Baltimore Ravens the opportunity to start absolutely on fire. Like, if you look at the first 6 games this team is playing in 2026, I'm elated by it. Against the Colts, who, they started the season hot last year. They dwindled when Daniel Jones got injured. He's going to be back, okay? I'm not saying that's an easy win, but still, Saints, Cowboys, Titans, Falcons, Browns. I look at those 6 opponents, and you know what I see? I see not a single team that made the playoffs a year ago in 2025. Now, have some of those teams improved over the last 4 or 5 months? Yes. Sure. 100%. I thought the Titans made a great hiring in Robert Saleh. I thought a couple of those teams, like the Cleveland Browns, did very, very well in the draft. But when you think of the opponents that you've got on your schedule, like the Bills, like the Bengals, twice, like the Jaguars, like the Chargers, you don't have to face any of them to start this thing off. You could very realistically go 5-1. Heck, if you're playing really good football early under Jesse Minter, you could go 6-0. I know that sounds crazy. Sounds like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Guess what? I don't care. Especially when you compare it to how this thing started off in 2025. I mean, look at that opening stretch. On the road against the Bills, against the Browns, at home. And then you play the Lions, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Rams. I look at that opening stretch from 2025, and what I see is almost the exact opposite of this year. I see 5 teams that made the playoffs in 2024, the year prior. And you know what your record was to start off the season last year against those 6 opponents? It was 1-5. Trust me. We were live for every second of every single one of those games, and it was painful. Was it not, Gage? It was painful. I'm sure you guys are right there with me. Look, what this does is it gives your brand new head coach the opportunity to get some wins under his belt early and to get hot early. We saw what happened to the team last year when they started the way they did. I feel like that took a mental toll on the locker room. Okay? That's going to be important to not have that same mental toll happen when you are under the care of a brand new head coach. I've got all the faith in the world in Jesse Minter, and I think this schedule at the beginning is going to help him get off to that hot start. The line has dropped for Week 1 against the Colts. They are 3.5-point favorites, Baltimore is. If you think they will cover, do one big favor. Hit that thumbs up button and like today's video. We got more gifts coming up in a second, but I do want to give a shout out to our awesome sponsor. As always, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. And the reason I love Prize Picks so much, and the reason you guys should check it out, is it's so easy to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. One thing I also love is the new social feeds feature. So if you're feeling lazy, like you don't want to go out there and make your own lineup, you could scroll, see the people you follow, see what lineups they're rocking with. And if you like one of them, go ahead, copy that lineup, and then watch the winnings roll in. I got a spicy one for tonight's games. The basketball playoffs resume. I'm taking the more on Cade Cunningham points, rebounds, and assists. The less on Dean Wade points, more on Donovan Mitchell points, more on James Harden rebounds and assists, the more on Anthony Edwards points, and the less on Julius Randle points. All 6 picks hit. I win $390. So, new users, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. Of course, clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description of today's video. I think another really big advantage that Baltimore has is they've got a pretty tough stretch after the opening 6 games, but the majority of those games in that next hard stretch are at home. Like, I think that's a very fortuitous deal from the National Football League because they take on Cincinnati, a team that, look, at the end of the day, when Joe Burrow's healthy, they're a very, very good squad. They beat you last year with a healthy Joe Burrow when you had a healthy Lamar Jackson. On the road against the Bills, that's going to be a good team. Jaguars, Chargers, 3 of those 4 teams made the playoffs last year, and you're playing 3 out of those 4 games at home in M&T Bank Stadium. That's always, always going to be a massive, massive advantage, especially when you don't have a ton of back-to-back home games on the schedule. In fact, this is the only one you have, both on primetime, both really big games, and of course, a little bit of a revenge game. Not revenge game, but a homecoming game for Jesse Minter, even though the Chargers will be in Baltimore. And then last up for the gifts, I love the chance they're giving Baltimore to make moves late if they need to. I don't know if you guys remember this. If you're new to the channel, you definitely don't. But if you've been here before and were with us last season, how often did I talk about this team and their ability to control their own destiny? Because although they started really, really slow in 2025, they got incredibly lucky with how things, ended up for them. They still had the ability to win and get in. They weren't relying on anybody else in Week 18. Week 15, Week 14, they weren't relying on anybody else to do their winning or losing for them. They had their destiny in their own hands. And really, no matter how this season shakes out in the beginning of it, because of the fact that you play the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals, and then the Steelers again, 4 straight divisional games to round out this year, you've got a chance to have matters in your own hands, to control your own destiny, really no matter how this season starts. I love the fact that it's set up that way, and I love the fact that they are going to most likely have that option. Now, hopefully we're talking about it in the good sense of, hey, look, you've got the ability to lock down the division, not climb back and get a lead in the division. You've got a chance to lock that thing down Week 16, Week 17. Hopefully that's what we're going to be able to watch. What's your Ravens record prediction? Let me know your answer down below in the comment section. A couple more segments coming up. I got my superlatives for this year's schedule, and then we're going to look at some betting lines, and then we're going to enjoy our week and get on out of here. The game I'm most excited for is Week 8 against the Bills. I'm always excited to play Buffalo. I love the little rivalry that like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen has turned into. Not that those two guys are rivals with each other. I think it's just more the fan base, and I really, really enjoy it. Those games are also really awesome, usually. Now, unfortunately, the last 2 times those games were very close. Baltimore did not end up on the winning side. I think a sneaky loss is Jacksonville in Week 9. That's coming off of that Buffalo game. I think Jacksonville's got a chance to be a solid team again this year. And so I think that could be a game that a lot of people don't necessarily see as a loss right now that could very much end up that way. I think a can't lose. It's random to have a can't lose this early. But I think Week 7 against Cincinnati, you've got them at home in that spot. That's a game, in my opinion, you've got to win, especially going into that stretch. That's Bills, Jaguars, Chargers. And then I believe Texans is Week 12. Who's Week 11 again? Panthers. Yeah, so that's a game, in my opinion, you got to be able to win against a divisional opponent at home. Must watch for me, Week 10. Wow, all middle of the season right there. Week 10 against the Chargers, in my opinion, is a must-watch ball game. Monday Night Football, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jesse Minter was their defensive coordinator last year. Odafe Owe. Odafe Owe was a commander. Never mind. Disregard that. Anyway, that's going to be a fun football game to watch. And then you did get a couple of bouts of bad luck. It wasn't all perfect. You do have 2 opponents you're playing off of a bye week, Cincinnati and Buffalo being both of those teams. So not only does it suck having a lot of teams off the bye, but you would want those teams to be like the New York Jets or the Falcons or the Buccaneers or, not Cincinnati and Buffalo. But hey, it is what it is. You play the people that are ahead of you in your schedule and you move on. The betting lines are out, though, for the entire year. They start off, like we said, 3.5-point favorites against the Colts. They right now are over a touchdown favorite against New Orleans. Dallas, they sit at -2.5. That game in Rio. They're a massive favorite against Tennessee, 8.5 points. Atlanta, 4.5. Cleveland, 6.5. Cincinnati, 3.5. Buffalo, they're 2.5-point underdogs. Jacksonville, 4.5-point favorites. Los Angeles, 2.5-point favorites. Carolina, 4.5-point favorites. On the road against Houston, they're underdogs by 1.5, almost a touchdown favorite against Tampa Bay. They're favored against Pittsburgh, 2.5. Home against Cleveland by almost 10 points. On the road against Cincinnati, they're an underdog by 1.5, and then Pittsburgh is -5.5. If you're doing the math with me, they're favored in 14 out of their 17 games. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We got another video coming out tomorrow. What's tomorrow's video, Gage? Perfect plan. That will be tomorrow. 53-man roster projections coming up on Sunday, so make sure you guys have me following on socials, and we will see you next time.